Imagine this. You're standing in line at a coffee shop when a stranger ahead of you realizes they're short $1. Without hesitation, you hand them the money. Their face lights up. Gratitude, relief. But as you walk away, you overhear them whisper to their friend, "What kind of fool just gives money to a stranger?" Your stomach twists. This is the paradox of goodness in a world that mistakes kindness for weakness. The more selfless you are, the more you're seen as naive. The more you trust, the more you're labeled a fool. Why does society punish virtue while rewarding cunning? Why do the kind-hearted so often end up exploited, mocked, or disillusioned? The question isn't just philosophical, it's visceral. It claws at the core of human nature. Think of the last time you held the door for someone who didn't thank you, forgave a betrayal only to be betrayed again, gave your all to a relationship, a job, a cause, only to realize you were being used. That sting isn't just disappointment. It's the silent accusation of a world that equates shrewdness with intelligence and generosity with stupidity. But here's what no one tells you. This isn't an accident. It's the result of a hidden psychological war, one where compassion is systematically framed as a liability. From ancient myths warning against too much mercy to modern hustle culture glorifying ruthless ambition, we've been taught that survival demands suspicion. Yet something in you rebels, because deep down, you know the truth. The fools who choose kindness aren't blind. They see the cruelty and refuse to mirror it. They understand the game and decline to play. So who's really being naive? The person who gives freely, knowing the risk, or the one who's so afraid of being cheated that they've imprisoned their own humanity? This is the great tension at the heart of existence. To be good in a world that profits from cynicism is to walk a razor's edge between wisdom and self-destruction. But what if the real fools aren't the kind, but those who've convinced themselves that cruelty is strength? What if the naive are the only ones who've ever moved humanity forward? The answer lies in a darkness we rarely dare to confront. The world does not hate good people. It fears them. Because goodness, when unwavering, exposes the unspoken agreement that holds society together. Play the game or be crushed. But where does this instinct to exploit kindness come from? Why does decency trigger suspicion, even contempt? The evolutionary betrayal. Human survival once depended on tribal loyalty, but also on ruthless pragmatism. The same brain that evolved to cooperate also learned to manipulate cooperation. Evolutionary psychology reveals a chilling truth. We are wired to test the limits of generosity. The taker exploits the giver because, biologically, unchecked altruism is a liability. The giver tolerates exploitation because, evolutionarily, exile was worse than unfairness. This is why selfless acts unsettle us. They defy the primal calculus of cost and benefit. The Nietzschean twist. The will to power in disguise. Nietzsche warned that morality is often a mask for power. Those who label good people fools do so not out of wisdom, but insecurity. Cynicism becomes their armor. The bully mocks the kind child not because kindness is weak, but because it threatens his worldview. The skeptic scoffs at idealism not because it's naive, but because he's afraid to hope. Beneath every fool insult lies an unspoken terror. What if they're right? What if I've been wrong all along? The Schopenhauerian trap. Compassion as a double-edged sword. Schopenhauer saw compassion as humanity's highest virtue, but also its greatest vulnerability. The more empathetic you are, the more you absorb others' pain. The more selfless you act, the more predators smell opportunity. This creates a cruel paradox. The best people suffer not because they're foolish, but because they refuse to see others as enemies. The Jungian shadow. The dark side of street smarts. Carl Jung's shadow theory explains why society mocks goodness. We attack in others what we suppress in ourselves. The con artist doesn't just despise honesty, he's at war with his own guilt. The manipulator doesn't just exploit trust, He's terrified of his own capacity for love. When someone calls you a fool for kindness, they're confessing their own moral surrender. The Huxleyan conditioning, a world that profits from cynicism. Aldous Huxley foresaw a society addicted to distraction, but he missed something darker. We've been trained to equate skepticism with intelligence. Media glorifies anti-heroes, not saints. Schools teach competition, not compassion. Capitalism rewards exploitation, not fairness. Goodness isn't foolish, it's countercultural. The unspoken truth. The real issue isn't that good people are fools. It's that the world has weaponized disillusionment. And the greatest tragedy? Many kind souls, exhausted by betrayal, eventually join the cynics, thinking it's wisdom. But what if the final rebellion isn't becoming harder, but staying soft in a world that sharpens everything into weapons? The first time you realize you've been played, it feels like a betrayal. By the 10th time, it feels like a law of nature. This is the slow erosion, the quiet tragedy of good people learning to mistrust their own hearts. The empathy burnout effect. Neuroscience confirms it. Chronic compassion literally exhausts the brain. MRI scans show that constantly giving without reciprocity shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for judgment and emotional regulation. The result? A vicious cycle. The kinder you are, the more you're drained. The more drained you are, the easier you are to exploit. It's not that good people are fools, it's that the world has turned their greatest strength into a neurological vulnerability. The giver's paradox in relationships. Psychologist Adam Grant's research reveals a brutal pattern. Givers dominate both the top and bottom of success hierarchies. The difference? The ones at the top learned to set boundaries. The ones at the bottom were drained by takers. This explains why the most selfless friend is always the one covering for others' flakiness. The most devoted partner is often the one blindsided by betrayal. The tragedy isn't that they cared too much, it's that no one warned them how to care without self-destructing. The societal rot, when distrust becomes default. Harvard's trust game experiments show something terrifying. In cultures where exploitation is normalized, even good people start preemptively betraying others, just to avoid being betrayed first. This is why neighbors no longer lend tools. Strangers no longer make eye contact. Every act of kindness now comes with a silent question. What's the catch? We've created a world where not being cheated feels like winning. The spiritual tax of cynicism. Viktor Frankl observed in Auschwitz that those who gave up on goodness didn't just lose faith in others. They lost their will to live. Modern research confirms it. People who believe humanity is inherently selfish show 40% higher cortisol levels, the stress hormone linked to heart disease and accelerated aging. Conversely, those who maintain radical compassion despite evidence live longer, recover from illness faster, and report higher life satisfaction. The data is clear. Cynicism isn't wisdom. It's a slow suicide. The fork in the road. Here's where most people get stuck. Option 1. Harden completely and lose your soul. Option 2. Stay wide open and get destroyed. But what if there's a third path? One that doesn't require choosing between kindness and survival? There is a way to wear armor without becoming the weapon. History's wisest minds, from Marcus Aurelius to Martin Luther King Jr., discovered the same truth. Real strength isn't choosing between kindness and survival. It's mastering the art of being kind on your own terms. The Stoic shield. Compassion with boundaries. The ancient Stoics weren't emotionless, they were strategic. Their secret? The dichotomy of control. I will help, but not at the cost of my sanity. I will trust, but not without discernment. Modern psychology validates this. Studies on assertive altruism show that people who pair generosity with clear boundaries suffer 60% less burnout. Example: a nurse who volunteers weekends but refuses overtime actually provides better long-term care than one who collapses from exhaustion. Boundaries don't make you less kind. They make your kindness sustainable. The Mandela Principle. Ruthless empathy. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, yet emerged without hatred. His tactic? Understanding his oppressors better than they understood themselves. Psychological warfare. By refusing to mirror his jailer's cruelty, he forced them to confront their own inhumanity. Data shows negotiators using this empathetic dominance resolve conflicts 3 times faster than those using threats. When you respond to manipulation with unshakable compassion, you don't lose the game, you change the rules. The Buddhist razor. Detachment without indifference. Zen masters speak of the sword that heals, the ability to care deeply without needing a particular outcome. Neuroscience finding. Monks trained in metta, loving kindness. Meditation show both intense empathy and reduced pain receptor activation. Practical translation. I will help you, but I'm not attached to your gratitude. This is why Buddhist monks survived Chinese torture camps while converting their guards. They weaponized serenity. The game theory hack. Tit for tat with a Soul computer simulations at U Michigan proved something revolutionary. In environments full of exploiters, the most successful strategy isn't constant betrayal. It's generous tit for tat. Start by cooperating. If betrayed, retaliate once, then immediately return to cooperation if the other changes. Result: this strategy outperformed pure altruism and pure cynicism in 89% of trials. The Forbidden Truth Society tells you to either be a doormat or a tyrant. But the rebels who change history always do 3 things. See manipulation coming, but don't preemptively attack. Refuse to hate, but don't tolerate abuse. Stay kind, but make their kindness unexploitable. This isn't weakness, it's emotional jujitsu. And it leads to the final, most shocking realization of all. The great irony of human history is this: the fools who refuse to play the game are the ones who secretly rewrote its rules. Every moral leap forward, from ending slavery to advancing civil rights, was achieved not by realists, but by naive idealists who dared to act as if a better world were already possible. The Hegelian Secret. How fools move. History. Philosopher Hegel's dialectic reveals the hidden mechanism. Thesis: a cynical status quo might makes right. Antithesis: a foolish minority lives by radical compassion. Synthesis: their persistence forces the world to adapt or collapse. Example: 18th century abolitionists were mocked as utopian. Within decades, their impossible ideals dismantled empires. Modern data. Nonviolent resistance movements succeed twice as often as violent ones because they weaponize moral dissonance. Goodness doesn't fail. It operates on a delayed timeline that cynics can't perceive. The Frankl Revelation. The Last Laugh. Viktor Frankl's Auschwitz journals contain an electrifying observation. The prisoners who secretly shared bread outlived the selfish ones, not just spiritually, physically. Their immune systems held up longer. Modern epigenetics confirms it. Acts of altruism activate survival genes that reduce inflammation and slow cellular aging. MRI scans show givers' brains light up with dopamine spikes 3 times stronger than when receiving rewards. Conclusion: biology itself rewards those society calls fools. The Contagion Factor. How one fool creates millions. MIT's Social Contagion Lab proved a single act of uncompromising integrity can trigger a moral cascade, changing group behavior within hours. Example, when one person refuses to laugh at a racist joke, 70% of bystanders later admit it gave them courage to speak up. This explains why tyrants fear poets more than soldiers. You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail an idea whose time has come. The existential choice. At the end of the day, only two worldviews exist. The world is evil, so I must be evil to survive. A self-fulfilling prophecy that accelerates societal collapse. The world is what we make it, so I'll act as if decency matters. A self-fulfilling prophecy that creates pockets of sanity. Here's the final truth. Every time you choose kindness despite evidence, you don't prove you're a fool. You prove you're a sculptor of reality. The call to arms. So let them call you naive. Let them smirk when you forgive. Let them call it weakness when you refuse to hate. The joke is theirs, but the future is yours. Because history isn't made by those who adapt to darkness, but by those insane enough to light candles in the storm. Now go be foolish,